Crop Circle Parables with the Bay Area Crop Circle Study Group on today. And this one I put up as the first one just to let you gaze at something while I talk a little bit. So we've been given a gift of these incredible manifestations in the fields for so many years now, and they're just so full of mystery. Are there larger messages that are enfolded in this? That it's like a scroll being that's unfurled. And how do we read this story that's being told? Do we need to learn a new language? You know, if we do, what are the letters? What are the elements that are involved? So what do the symbols mean? And one thing that you should know about me, that I have many Marienisms, I call them Marienisms. And one is nothing is just one thing. In other words, you can take that a lot of different ways, but everything has many layers of meaning. And so to be able to look at any one thing and know there's not just one answer, there's always a multiplicity of possibilities. So, you know, as a parable, what's the spiritual lesson that is being opened up for us, you know? Well, one seems like, widen your perspective. You know, there's many new ways to see and understand what's going on. This is one of the ones from this year. And it was heavily focused on actually during the conference that was in October that Karen Alexander hosted. And it's beautiful, and it has, I included it with the one before. We'll go backwards just a moment so you can see. It's got a similar kind of mandala-like feeling on it with that kind of leaf-like design on the outside of the fourth ring. And that's going on here on the outside of the fourth ring. And you see that design a lot in mandalas. It's also like, it's the bracket symbol, you know, so there's something about letting all of the different elements start to speak through telling the parable, so that layers and layers of information can be revealed. It's a way to widen your perspective. There's so many different angles that you can look at this stuff from. So, you know, for instance, you know, now that being in the field is one way of looking at them, and that's an incredible thing when you're able to actually go and be in the field and look at them. That's perfect. Well, it always are perfect, but you know, we have this photographic record. Thank you, Steve Alexander. Thank you, all the different photographers. And now we have movie records, you know, and that gives us another kind of level or layer of meaning for something to be absorbed. And when you're down in it, that's a different thing. Seeing it in reference to the landscape, this is one that you can see where there was a copse right there, you know, a little tiny forest. And it's obviously, it's about the same size, it looks like, as that little forested knoll. And so there's a definite difference there, you know, and so being able to pull back and see where things are in the landscape. There's certain researchers that now we have Google Maps, you know, and you can go on and see, are there things on the map, you know, ways that the land is divided up and reminiscent of different kinds of figures, that poetry will arise out of that. That's all really interesting and all worthy of exploration. So, you know, then there's the dates and the place names and all the stories of encounter that all the different stories. Oh my God, I wish I could meet everyone that has any interaction with this and hear their story, because it would be an enriching of my own understanding of reality. Actually, these are like portals into widening my perspective on reality. And for me, that's a kind of parable. We need to be much more related with many more different kinds of detail. So the first parable that I have here, I'm calling Permission. And we've been given a really wide variety of designs, and we've been not given a training manual. And I think that that is part of this. So how do we approach it? It feels like each person has a unique view of what's happening, and that's appropriate. And you know, because there's no set of instructions, this is in fact part of the lesson. We have permission to approach the bench and give our thoughts on the subject. We each have permission. So my perspective is not the only one, that's for sure. And nor is it the right one. You know, it's just the one that I'm sharing. And it's one that serves me in my own understanding and how I approach life and how I approach this kind of mystery, you know. And in my sharing it, I'm hoping that it's of service, you know, that it may be parabolic. That's probably not the correct use of the word, but parabolic. Okay. So our lenses or perspectives feed and tailor the information we're being given through the circles. I tend to hold questions of wanting to understand who, what, where, when, how I'm here. It's particularly the how I find is really, really important, and how that is in the universe. So I also hold questions of what am I not seeing? You know, where is it? Where is the beyond? Where is the unknown? And how do I open to the unknown in a way that it's going to be respectful and nourishing in both directions for me and for other? That's actually a really big part of my own personal philosophy, is opening to the unknown and having it be my two pillars that I hold on to, space and time. But one, space is respect emotionally, and time is frequency, nourishment. Is what's the interaction? So what's the relationship in time? They're both about relationship. So that's a big deal for me. So, and these are obviously signs of grand intelligence. And, you know, if you can open up to that, there are synchronicities and small miracles and large miracles that are happening in your lives, that these types of things can also fit in and show that there's, you know, there's something a lot more going on here, more than we can have dreamed of. And so how do we open up our consciousness to what's possible? Okay, so here we go. This design, this is the fundamental. This is the circumpunct, it's called. The circle with the punct in the middle, you know, the circumpunct, that's what it's called. And it's primary. This design has all number in it. It's the union of the masculine and the feminine, you know, the masculine being the center point, the anchor for consciousness, and the feminine being all points of possible relationship. It's all the feminine being matter, being every relationship that you could possibly have, the infinite possibility. It's symbolized by the circle. So and this symbol also represents the sun. It's the symbol they use for the sun, which is the center, the anchor for our solar system, right? And it's nice that this is in golden wheat. So it looks very sunny. It's the alpha and the mega, it's the all and the nothing. Center is acknowledged. Okay, so this was in the year 2000. So no, this fundamental design it's been repeated many times in many different ways. You know, sometimes the circle's larger, sometimes it's smaller, sometimes they're satellite circles, you know, etc. It's just been, it's often fundamentally included in like most of the designs that we see. But here is just the simple circumpunct. And this was in August of the year 2000, which was a beginning year. It was the first year of the new millennium, right? So they're reminding us of the fundamentals in the very beginning of the parable of the new era, the new millennium. You know, that's just one way to express the new era is to have a change of century, a millennium. Wow. And the millennium also being a flip of multiple levels of scale, like the Mayan calendar has multiple levels of scale flipping that are turning all at once. So this was year, century, millennium, you know, maybe further. So that first came down, that's the one on the left. I mean, on the bottom that you see there is the one that I just showed you. And then on August 6th, it was repeated, and you can see up there that there's some lines going on in it. So this is that design. And it's starting to express a sevenfold design. You can just see like there's outlines going on in it of a sevenfold design. And there are two different expressions of the sevenfold star. It's a framework of 7 arcs, 2 different expressions of the spinning 7 points. And the number 7 is associated with the law of octaves, right? And it's the spectrum. I think of it as, it's like a full expression. It's a full exploration, the whole spectrum within a particular realm. Every circle for me is like a realm of exploration. All right, so August 13th, remember this date, August 13th, 2000. There are going to be a couple more that come in later in the thing that are from this date, and it was an amazing date for some reason. I don't know why that particular one, 813. Oh, that's in the Fibonacci series. Huh, just got it, ding. Yeah, this is a dynamic. It's a dynamic revelation. I'm always getting new information. I just got new information yesterday, so. Okay, so on August 13th, this same crop circle was revisited, and they played with it. They laid down parts of the arc that actually went into that center circle. If you can see, there's a circle around the center 7-pointed star, the smaller star. That circle got laid down in the next one to make these arcs. And then an extra little line was added on these arcs to make them look kind of cup shaped. Do you see that? Where it looks like it could be a fan, or kind of like the hall in the concert hall in Sydney. You know, that amazing building in Sydney, Australia. So it kind of looks like that. And this is a theme that's been repeated. This was the first time we saw this particular design element. And then this pattern was in Germany in 2015. And so this is a repetition of that kind of shell pattern. I'm just showing you a few of these because there are designs that get repeated. There's these elements that get expressed in a new and creative way, in a new and creative harmonic. Like this one was 12, the last one was 4, the original one was in 7. And then this year it was repeated again on 6. So there's something in the parable of creativity, and it's not just one thing, and there's always a new possibility of expression. And find it with the same kind of element of harmonic, there are new ways to express, and it's like each one of us is an element, is a harmonic of human, for instance, the template of human, but each of us is expressing differently. And so I do request that if your audio is on, do mute yourself. Hopefully that will help. And I hope this is being clear for everyone. Okay, so on August 13th, when this crop circle was revisited and re-expressed in this new way, it had a partner. I'm hearing an echo. I think someone's audio is probably on. If you could just make sure that you're all muted, that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's Ruth. Ruth
Yes,
has
sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry
Thank
about
you
that.
very much. Okay, so let's take a look at this design. Why? You know, why? What was that there for? Remember, we're still in the year 2000, the new millennium. So, okay, this design has, it's another circle. You had the circumpunct is, once again, it's referenced there, but now you have 3 satellite circles. And the number 3 is the first masculine number. It's like an exploration number. It's like, you know, with duality, you start to have relationship. But you need perspective on that duality if you're really going to be able to go anywhere with it. Otherwise, you just get polarized, right? So with number 3, you can define a whole new circle. You get a whole new realm. You can start to explore. And this particular design is created by these satellite circles having a concentric resonance that's going back and referencing in to the center. So you go out and explore, but you bring the information back in and it starts to interact internally and you get whole new revelations, new designs. These are, this is parable for me. Hello. Oh, it's thinking. Okay. So, and then in 2004, I just wanted to show, this is still under the permission parable. We have permission to be our own prime number and resonating with the circumpunct, resonating with the all, and to find our harmonic among many, many complex prime numbers. So this is 4 prime numbers. It's number 1, 7, 11, and 13. It's incredibly complex to create, but absolutely harmonic and held. It's like, it feels like the community is holding itself very, very well. And just to show you this next slide, this was the center. Isn't that incredible? It's almost like it's a fractal of the whole thing. You know, there's like one, I think there might be just one stalk sticking up in the very center, and then a 4-layer cake of the wheat. You know, they make cakes out of wheat. So this was in the center of that previous crop circle. So, okay, my next parable is called Unfathomable Beauty. Hold on. I have notes here. I want to make sure I don't miss anything that I thought was important. So yeah, Unfathomable Beauty is, it's how do we relate to the unknown? And I do feel that right now, being able to relate to the unknown is critical. It's critical for us that that in this time of potential ascension, people call it, that it is about going way beyond the limitations of how we've been living our lives. Clearly from 2020, we have to go way beyond this particular limitation. We've got to get out of this. And I think we have to have a new relationship with each other and with the beyond, with the unknown. And that means that, you know, and the crop circles definitely seem to be pointing to, there's a lot more unknown and there's many more levels of consciousness that are active here and can interact with us if we allow ourselves to open up to it. So with Unfathomable Beauty, this was in the year 2000, once again, and there had been many of these, they called them pictograms, where, you know, just series and kind of almost like, you know, words or sentences or something of these designs that are, it's unfathomable, you know, we don't really know. I mean, there are elements that, you know, like the coming in from the bottom of the growth and interaction, and then this whole thing coming out. Hello. I mean, what do you say? It's this was actually the center of a larger crop circle. This was in the circumpunct. This was in the center of the circumpunct, where almost like, you know, our very attention, our anchor for where we need to stay present is completely confused. And you know, some people thought that looked kind of like a horse's head, which had Hindu meaning in it, you know, kind of symbology. In Hindu astrology, the horse head represents the sun, so that would be kind of appropriate. But there's so much going on in there. This was the crop circle that was the center of, and it had the 5 spot. You know, these satellites of the 4 adjacent circles, which for me always feels like it's an orientation in space, north, south, east, west. You know, if you know the 4 directions, you can kind of stay in your center. And then there was this other design that happened in the field at the same time. And this is in another parable, so I'm not going to talk about that one just yet. But remember, it was in this one with this field. Unfathomable. And what's so remarkable about this one, you know, it's every single circle had a different kind of center going on, a really interesting center design. It's spilling out of this ancient burial mound, you know, and just kind of going, I don't know, it's like history finding, it does this story, then it does this story, then it does, that story kind of goes off in this direction, and it also goes off in this direction. And, you know, they really do seem like stories. For instance, these are 2 of the centers that were in just 2 of those circles that were in that crop circle. It's just so exquisite to look at that. I mean, you know, and every single one was a little different story, but they were all connected together. My computer's being slow. Okay, so the Unfathomable Beauty, right? So this is really interesting. I like this one a lot. You know, all of these triangles are all slightly different shapes, extensions. None of them are equilateral. I don't think so. I don't think any of them are equilateral. But where the center would be, even though they're not equilateral, there is a center point. Some of them even have 3 center points. Like this one has 3 angles being referenced as, you know, with center points. And the way that they're all related is only through one point. They're only related to each other through one point of contact. And consequently, it gets quite wild. You know, like, how does this work? You know, if you only have one point of contact, one point of reference with someone, you're not really seeing very much of them. And yet at the same time, this is one figure, all of them are connected. And you can, if you went in at one point somewhere, you could get through to every other being in this figure. And it's all hanging together. It's coherent. It's a harmonic design, even though it's really, really wild. And in this unfathomable design, each triangle is sharing a full edge with another triangle, or 2 or 3 or 4 even sometimes. It's and consequently, all of these triangles are equilateral. There's much more frames of reference where they can like understand each other more fully. And in fact, the whole community is creating what it's like it looks like a little dog or something, you know, a whole nother being. It's like it becomes another level of information when more levels of contact are are had. Now remember, this is just my story. I'm just sharing with you how I like to relate to these. And I'm not saying that this is the right way. I'm saying that this is just a parable, and this is how I'm going through it. So, okay. I mean, awestruck beauty. This thing is huge. It's probably, you know, if you consider that between the tram lines, those parallel lines that the tractors go down, if you consider that between the tram lines is anywhere from 80, 100, 120 feet, this is like, you know, maybe 400, 500 feet across, something like that. Just a tremendous amount of downed wheat with an incredibly beautiful lay. And that something that is square could be made to feel spinning and organic, and with, you know, all that interesting kind of, you know, all those extra little dots around the outside, you know, those look like, they're called grape shot. And it's like, there's just so much action going on that it just kind of is spinning out and spitting out in a certain way. Just exquisite. Here we have 2004. There are three of them that I have that are kind of in the same family. You know, they're harmonics that go through, even though they're kind of unfathomable. This looks, you know, it looks very musical. It looks like, you know, if you could somehow have an imprint of what the sound of the music of a trumpet is, you know, maybe this is what it looks like. You know, maybe that's how, if we can expand our frames of references and just let this stuff speak to us at a deeper level, that's very cool. Okay, so for instance, here we have another one, 2004. This one's symmetrical. You know, they feel so musical. There's, oops, just gaze into the unfathomable beauty for a moment. Next parable. Come on. All right, information downloads. Woohoo. Are you ready? Are we actually getting downloads? This would be a good thing to know. And people get them in all kinds of different ways. All right, this was a multi-visited crop circle. So this was the first iteration. It was under one of the white horses near Milk Hill in Wiltshire. And I'm going to go into this in much more detail. So first, look at that center part. You know, remember this shape. You know, this shape. It's a head shape. These two are photoshopped to bring out the contrast a little more of this exact piece. And this is one that came down in 1999. That's the exact same design, you know. And what is this? You know, this is the alien head icon, is it not? And I like to call it Galactic, because I feel like if they'd put a head there that actually looked like a human, you wouldn't necessarily think beyond. You wouldn't necessarily think that it means anything beyond a human on this particular planet. So, but with this icon, you definitely think, oh, we're talking consciousness that goes beyond just humans on this planet. But we're included. We're not separate from that. So I like to call this fellow galactic citizen. So we're included. We are galactic citizens, and they're, I think, part of the gift of the crop circles is that they're opening us up to that truth, that fact. Okay. Oh, this next one has, I'm not gonna be able to do my little spins in and out. That's okay. I had effects going on, but since it was having trouble, we're just gonna do it the simple way. Okay, so here's this same design. And note that this element here looks kind of like a compass. Right, and a compass is for drawing the geometries and drawing the circles. One angle is coming in to the top of the head, and the other angle is coming in through the ear. And this is a 90-degree arc. So, you know, you have your vertical and your horizontal referenced. And it also looks like a sextant. And this is a sextant. And a sextant was an instrument that was used to measure the elevation of celestial bodies above the horizon. That's appropriate, right? Okay, so, and then it's referencing, this is referencing a quadrant instead of a sextant though. And quadrants are, you know, it's a side between vertical and horizontal. So, and then what is this? This is like information coming in. This was the first pictogram, they called them pictograms, in 1990. It was the first one that ever happened. And to me, what it looked like, these two little sets of lines, they look like quotation marks. This really looks like they're trying to get information in to us, and they hadn't quite found the point of contact. They couldn't quite, you know, the syringe wasn't being squeezed hard enough or something. But it was information, you know, that was information that was trying to come through and make contact. And then on a month or two later, July 7th, same year, 1990, they made contact. And the information was able to come through, and the ring, you know, that was starting to go, whoa, new reference points. Let me expand out a little bit. So here I see, you know, here's a reference point from the beyond, a star above the horizon that's sending information down, and that information is being related both into the vertical and into the horizontal. The horizontal is basically all of this reality, but it's also into your own vertical self-alignment. And then when that happens, ding, all of this information starts to spill out again. Okay, so the next one, let's see if that works. No, it doesn't. Oh, yeah, it did. Okay, that's good. This was a week later, or wait a minute, what was it? The dates were 2 days later. This was 2 days later. Interesting, huh? Okay, so from those stories that were starting to spill out, they are developing. Every single one of these is carrying out a new possibility, a new box of knowledge, let's call it, is being exposed and expanded out. This looks to me like stage props. They're like, you know, they're backdrops on a stage, and this actually looks like, you know, the edge of the stage and people gathering, or the lights, you know, underneath the stage kind of starting to light it up. And every story is a little bit different. And it also kind of feels like it's compartments of knowledge. Like there's these aren't, they are kind of related, but they're not necessarily all the same thing. And then a week later, let's see if this works. Yes, you had all this information spill out. It's like the storyline. It's like the 5-act play. And every line is like another story coming out. This one seems to have a little pyramid on it, which is interesting. And then the next act, and the next act, and the next act. You know, with a 5-act play, there's redemption. A 4-act play is usually a tragedy. A 5-act play, there's redemption, often comedies. But so this is a 5-act play. I like that. That's very helpful for me. Okay, let's go on. Yay, okay. Next parable, transition with the cosmos. Ooh, ah. All right, probably many of you have seen this. This may be repetitive for some of you, but and if you've seen me, you've probably seen a bunch of these before. But there's always a little bit of new information. So this was in 2008, and it's clearly a solar system, our solar system. These are the 3 inner planets. Here's Earth with the moon around it. Here are the outer planets. Here's Pluto's orbit. The orbits, not the planet. Well, here are the planets. And they figured out when the date was for this particular arrangement of planets. And it was December 23rd, 2012. Actually, it was, but that's close enough to reference the 21st, the December 21st, 2012 date, which is another point of transition, like the 2000 date. It's referencing the end of the Mayan calendar and the new era, the new Baktun. So, and this was in 2008. They were referencing it then. And one of the things that I love about this particular photograph is that here's Earth, you know, what was supposed to be happening on that date of the December 21st was an alignment with Earth, Sun, and Galactic Center. And I love that you have Earth, Sun, and that Avebury is representing Galactic Center. I love that, you know, that the ancient landscape. And so, you know, here we go, this line. So there was, surprisingly, another crop circle in that line through the landscape. So Avebury is up here somewhere. Here's Silbury Hill. And then here's this galaxy, this with a galactic center. And this is a fascinating crop circle. Really, really beautiful crop circle. So this was straight through galactic center of Avebury. This was being referenced by that 2012 date crop circle. And I wanted to show you the geometric analysis of this, because it was a wow. It was a total wow for me. Hold on, gotta find it. Here we go. The reconstruction of the West Kennett Long Barrow 9/6/2008 formation. So if you have not heard of Zef Damon, .nl, he's Dutch. Wow, a fantastic website. He does reconstructions, and you can look and see how are these created. And I get information from this. It's amazing. So this is that galaxy crop circle. If you notice, here, whoops, I don't want to open that. Yeah, if you notice on the crop circle, one would think that these are phi spirals, but they're not. It's not a phi spiral. It's created in a different way. So the spiral is actually created through an oscillation jumping scale. So it starts with a small circle. You go to one side of it. You find the hexagram that circumscribes that circle, and then you create from one side of it, you create a circle that references through that hexagram. Do you follow that? That's the green one. And then you jump to the other side of the circle again, and you create a larger circle that includes both circles. Then you jump to the other side of that, and you create a circle that is including both the circles. So you have this oscillation pattern that's going back and forth, that's creating parts of the spiral. And then, so carrying on, and then you do it at 90 degrees. You do the same thing. You carry on the same oscillation at the 90-degree side. And then once you've done that, then you can find this spiral. Those two, from the vertical and the horizontal, you get this very interesting kind of oscillating spiral that's going on. Now, the other piece that was so interesting, and then it gets repeated 4 times around. So that one spiral is repeated 4 times around. And then if you notice on, here, I'll go to the bottom and you can see it. Hold on. Yeah, that 2 of the spirals have these radiating lines going through them, and 2 of the spirals are just straight and are solid and end in points. These radiating lines, this just so blew me away. They are not consistent. They are 4 different frequencies of radiation. So the first one is a radiation of 60 rays. And those 60 rays give you the spacing through this first quadrant and just extending into the next one. The next one gives you is on 48, 60, 48, So you get all the rays through this next quadrant. These are at 36 rays around, and this is at 24 rays around. So there are 4 different frequencies of 24, 36, 48, 60. You know, these numbers reference time. These numbers are elements of, you know, really mostly time. Anything that's related to time. It's the hours of the clock. It's the numbers of months in a year. It's et cetera, et cetera. It's multiples of 12. And that's what's going on in this galaxy that's out beyond the cycles of time that are more Mayan, that are being referenced in that other crop circle. So, okay, so let's go back to this one. Come on, did you see it? Yes. So they revisited this crop circle a week later, July 22nd, and July 22nd is always a really interesting date. It's the Feast of Magdalene, I think, is one. It's also 22 over 7 references is an expression of pi. If you divide 7 into 22, you get a close approximation of pi. Which is, well, actually, I'm going to be talking about pi a little bit later. I'll go on. So, you know, what happened here? What happened here? This is that same crop circle that I showed you before that had the date, but the sun is suddenly much larger, and it has consumed the orbits of Venus and Mercury, the head and the heart. You know, the sun expanding to consume the head and the heart. You have something from the direction of Avebury, from the direction of Galactic Center is like approaching us over here. And then, the other thing I want to say, Pluto, in this crop circle, Pluto is not where it would have been on December in 2012. This actually, Pluto is here in 2036. So we're already in 2020, and we were already wondering, and it may take this long for this whole cycle to kind of readjust itself. So, but in the meantime, you know, holy moly, it's like the center's been knocked out. And this is like, you know, karmic book kapow, you know, that's like, you know, like you're seeing stars and, you know, or maybe they're visitors, I don't know, come to watch. It's like, we don't know what these are, but the slate is being wiped clean, it looks like, and it's being applied to the whole solar system. It's as large as the solar system. So, although, you know, referencing something else, but it's empty. That's, it's something to breathe with for certain. Breath continues, a pulse continues, even with something that seems to be completely emptied out. Okay, so transitioning with the cosmos, transition dates when things happen. There's the 2012 transition date that was an icon for us that may truly still be functioning. And then there was the 2000 date that I referenced earlier. So, you know, there were signs about that. You know, we were really concerned about Y2K, you know, and this was the second election that came down in 1999. And, you know, looks kind of like the sun, looks like the sun putting out a huge CME. It's possible that part of, you know, what might be, maybe it's Galactic Center putting out a pulse. Allow your imagination to work here, but something big, you know, from some very strong force, firing out. I don't know the directions of this. I would love to have the information of, you know, what is the reference points? How are all of these in the landscape? The more information, the better, in my opinion, but who knows? And then this was the last crop circle of 1999, which was absolutely gorgeous. The number 8 is a number of transformation. You know, it's as above, so below, right? In the number 8, it's also infinity. And when you put as above, so below with infinity, you get a quaternity that's then, you know, multiplied into the octernity. It's, you know, and here you have, this is on 8 and then 16 and then 32, and then it probably continues on. And this, it's also a number of deep rest in a certain way. It's transformation, but you, in order to have that transformation, you have to be at the center. And so this is an incredibly, if you look at the center of that, it's just exquisite. And then you have pi sitting over there in the corner. And interestingly, about that little pi there is that the lower, the edge that you can see going off to the right actually extended out into the field as an extremely thin line. You wouldn't have been able to walk down it. It was only like, you know, maybe 4 or 5 inches wide, and a long line that went out into the field, somewhat meanderingly, but, you know, out for maybe 50 feet or something. And, you know, a little bit of pi coming in. So I am going to talk about pi. Pi is a very interesting number. What's going on? So then we flipped. We came to the new millennium, and the first crop circle that came out was this tiny little triangle inside of a circumpunct, you know, and not so small, actually. It's probably at least 100 feet, I would imagine. But, you know, from our point of view, it looks really tiny. And, you know, from a picture, it looks really tiny. And it's got this little triangle on the inside. So why? Why is this? Why was this a first reference point? What are they trying to do when they bring us back to, oh, a triangle in a circle? This is the, remember the basics. It's like, remember the basics. It's the simplest harmonic. And then like one of the next ones was this one, April. This is still April. It was still really early in the year 2000. And they're going, it's like, this is like the thought bubble, and the two little eyes there, you know, that are only seeing in polarity, and they're going, no, think triplicity, think triangles, you know, really, you really do need this. It's like, we're talking to you, you know. And then this one was just a few days later, a week later. And this is interesting. This is an equilateral triangle, but this triangle is a phi ratio triangle. It's this is a point of a pentagram, a point of a 5-pointed star. So, and of course, equilateral triangles are in 6-pointed stars. So this is a relationship of 5 to 6, which is in all, that's how nature works. Nature works in the biological action of being able to scale and explore through phi ratios in the structure, in the crystalline structure of 6 that is resonating through, you know, that we're climbing through the structure of the crystal of creation. So. And then, just a little bit later, was this one. Here, talk about a relationship of 5 to 6, making it really, really clear. We're still in the year 2000. These are some of the earliest crop circles of the year 2000. The 5-pointed star has been, you know, it's not an exact pentagram. It's been related. It's been formed on a 6-pointed circle. And the 6-pointed circle is referenced in half as a duality, as a polarity. So it's like, it's pulling all of these elements together. And that just seems really, it seems like, get back to basics, get back to making sure that you know yourself in this world, in polarity, and you can climb through it, and you can relate all these elements. And then if you do that a little later in the season, hello. No, it's not working now. Here we go. Okay, came this. And this was at the Chill Bolton Radio Telescope that the following year was the Arecibo reply in the same location. And I'm not going to go into that at all. But this was in the Arecibo reply, which was the seeming reply from the Arecibo message that got sent out from by what's his name? Oh darn, and team that got sent out in 1995. Carl Sagan. Thank you. Thank you,
Sagan.
Brain.
Sagan and Drake.
Yes.
Sagan and Drake.
Thank you, Carl Sagan and Drake. And in 75, I think they sent it out, and then, or no. Yeah, 75, 76, somewhere around there. And,
74.
74, is that when it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was 26 years later, came this reply. And at the bottom of it was the communication device. In the original, it was the Arecibo telescope, a little schematic. And then on the Arecibo reply was a schematic of this design. So, and it's right next to the telescope, so egg telescope. So for me, including it here, it's like, this is about duality and the fractalization of duality. And just last night, one of my parables here is about discernment, and it's coming up. But just last night, I suddenly had the thought, because we are being encroached by AI, and AI is all zeros and ones. It's mechanical language, and this is an expansion of mechanical language, and in fact, it is referencing, the reception of a kind of mechanical language. And I suddenly had the thought of, if there is some way that I need more discernment of how this fractalizes out, how reality, how our communication fractalizes through polarization. These are just the ways that my mind works. And then August 13th. Oh yeah, remember I told you to look at that date? August 13th, that came down on August 13th, the same day as the 3 next to the circumpunct with the 7 that I showed you at the beginning. This was the same date. So you had the Chilbolton radio telescope schematic, and this one, same date. It's like you start to explore, and whoa, maybe you can explore through fractalizing polarization, which seems like what we do in this planet, but you can also explore through this actually is phi ratio spirals. And this is built on, there are 44 arcs here, and 14 circles of these little designs that are these little triangles or diamonds, polarized diamonds that are going through. And so 44 over 14 is 22 over 7, which is pi. And then you also have this spiral that is actually, it's a phi spiral that's going through this. So this is a much more naturalistic approach to reality. Pine cones, sunflowers. I think they called it the sunflower. Okay. On to the next parable, Galactic Activation. Woo-hoo. Are we being activated by beyond ourselves? Well, we shall be born. And this was at a location called Shalborn in 2 subsequent years. This was the first one on August in 2004. And this one, almost the same date, very nearly the same date, August 2005. And it's like they've rung some bells, and the reverberations are crossing over each other and creating these interference patterns, these moire interference patterns. Now, something happened in between these 2 dates, and I'm going to tell you about it. There is a magnetar that flashed on December 27th, 2004. It rang through the galaxy. So here's our sun in this particular depiction of the galaxy. Here's Galactic Center. Here's where the magnetar was. It was 50,000 light years away. going right through galactic center. And when this thing went over, so what's a magnetar? A magnetar is it's a quote unquote dead star. You know, it's a star that's gone supernova and has collapsed on itself, huge. And it is spinning. It's spinning every 7.5 seconds. I mean, you know, can you imagine our sun spinning? It's every 7.5 seconds. Just unbelievable. And Qatar, this neutron supernova remnant, has the mass of a sun compressed in just a few kilometers across, and gravity billions of times stronger than Earth's, and a magnetic field quadrillions of times stronger, and spinning every 7.5 seconds. Okay, this is pretty cool, huh? So on December 27th, 2004, I don't know when this actually happened. It may have taken a little while to go across 50,000 light years. You know, might have taken a little while. Could at the table, the far side of the table feels the pulse immediately. It doesn't have to go through stuff. And sound waves actually can travel faster than light waves, which is interesting. So it says, Dr. Richard Rothschild, an astrophysicist at the University of California Center for Astrophysics and Space Sciences in San Diego, said, this explosion was akin to hitting the neutron star with a gigantic hammer, causing it to ring like a bell. Now, the question is, what does the frequency of the neutron star oscillations, the tone produced by the ringing bell, mean? That was near the frequency of the 22nd key of the piano. The 22nd key, I think, is very interesting, which is F sharp. And F sharp is a very, very important tone. It was actually just a slightly flat F sharp, not quite in the 440. It was probably closer to the. It was actually a frequency of 94.5 cycles per second. Near the frequency of F sharp, 94.5. Okay, so this magnetar rang, and I think that galactic center may have acted kind of like a lens to let that tone on that date. On that date, you can look it up. December 27th. All of our satellites pinned. They kind of all went down for a little bit. And the moon rang and the earth rang, and everything was ringing. The whole solar system was ringing this F sharp tone, you know, pretty cool. So if you look at this, looks like something ringing to me, and it also feels like that this pulse from across galactic center is getting our polarities to like come more in line, and, you know, find each other and know what we're doing. Okay, galactic activation. Next, emergence. Are we emerging into something new? Okay. This was in July 1994. It's a dragonfly larva. It took an entomologist to figure this out, but it's a dragonfly larva. This is a little dragonfly larva. And it looks like it's like emerging out of a little bubble at the bottom. You know, the dragonflies, they put their eggs into ponds, and the larva, the eggs develop in underwater at the bottom of the pond in the muck, kind of like a lotus, you know, and then it finally emerges and it swims around in the pond for a while. So that was in July 7th, 1994. And then in 2009, quite a bit later, it finally got large enough to become a dragonfly. So, and it looks like it's ready to finally leave the pond, you know? So with a dragonfly in almost every part of the world symbolizes change, and change in perspective of self-realization. The kind of change that has its source in mental and emotional maturity and the understanding of the deeper meaning of life. Okay, there's a parable for you. So it may be that it could be that we need to make sure that we have that, that we foster that, or that we're getting there, we're coming to that, or that we have come to that, you know. New perspectives, you know, and dragonflies are amazing flyers, and they can like stop in midair, and they're really fast and just amazing. So, and also its body looks like it's made of planets. Interesting, you know. This is it's maybe coming from somewhere else, a different kind of dragonfly. Working with nature. (2011). This was also one that was revisited. Looks like seeds in the circle. You know, looks like they're able to get some water in, and this shape is actually called the seed when you're starting to draw geometry of the flower of life. This particular vesica is called the seed vesica, and it looks like it's blooming a little bit, but it's kind of wonky. You know, people thought, I don't know about this one. Well, it was revisited, and I'm going to show you what it was. And they put an extra seed in here, and if you notice this arc, it cuts, if this arc had been all the way around, it would have cut off this edge. Well, and when it got revisited, this is the seed that got added. And this little portion of the crop was laid down in the previous one, but it got resurrected. So there's something here about we can be brought back to life. This is really good news. And if you just put, you know, this is like a phi ratio 4-step pyramid. It's a little wonky. It's a, you know, maybe that's okay. We don't have to be perfect. Oh, and but if you just respect a few of the laws of harmonic and relationship, and you know, giving it a little extra love and care, the whole thing can bloom. Ah. We can work with nature. It's going to be okay. I like this. There's another one. This was in 2002. Oh, I had all these effects that were going to happen, but oh well, that's okay. So a tree, a huge, people thought of it as an apple tree. Looks like very well could be an apple tree. It certainly is a heavily laden fruit tree, and very, very abundantly laden fruit tree, being upheld by this Y-shaped, very strong trunk. But if you turn it over, there is a secret in the ground underneath, where it's in the mycelial mat, the mushroom underneath is what's actually making this tree so abundant. So again, reminders, care for the soil, care for all of the life that is supporting us, and for what is hidden underground. And then this one, we're still working with nature here. I love this one. I love this little guy. I just think he's so cute. He looks like a little Superman to me, you know, with his cape flying. This is a really beautiful expression of the torus field. You know, how these circles overlap the larger ones that are going towards the center. It really feels like it's being folded back in towards center and rotating around. So the torus is that geometry that is it's the natural flow of life around everything organic. So maybe with this torus natural flow of life, we can actually source free energy. This looks like little energy Superman. You know, he's 7-pointed, so he's able to explore the whole of the realm. And he's even got a little plug face, you know, and he's got a cord that you can plug him in, you know. And he's got his instead of the Superman insignia, it's a Taurus insignia on his chest. You know, I just love it, love it, love it, love it. So working with nature, we can get free energy, you know, possibly this is what's possible. Okay. Next parable. Awakening in the dream. Whew. 2005, the East Field, important spot. So this very, very clear Egyptian symbol, you know, this was the symbol for the Egyptian god Khepra. And Khepra was a kind of sun god, you know, he's holding up the sun, right? And it's the hawk-winged scarab. And Khepra actually means to become, you know, so the dung beetle, which it's a dung beetle, but it's got these hawk wings, so it can fly, you know, have the height of the sun for its vision. And it's holding up either the sun or it's holding up a ball of shit, you know. And, you know, notice what you dream. Notice what your own dream is. Do you dream that we are under the light of the sun, or do you dream that we're being enfolded into a ball of shit? You know, this is, let your dreams come up and see. So you may know also Jung's very famous story where he had a case of synchronicity where he had a client, and Jung did dream work, you know, and the client was somewhat skeptical, and she was telling Jung her dream. And it was about a scarab beetle. She was being gifted a scarab beetle in her dream, and it was this golden green color, and she was describing it. And Jung, while she was describing this dream, Jung kept hearing a tapping at the window, and it was winter in Switzerland or Austria or wherever it is that Jung was, I'm not sure. And finally he kept hearing this tapping, and he got up and he opened this window, and this scarab beetle, a little tiny gold green scarab beetle in the middle of winter, completely unannounced, unwarranted, flew into the window, and he caught it and he gave it to his client, and his client just like completely let go of all sense of skepticism at that point, and then the work was finally able to go deeper. So these levels of synchronicity, I mean, there's a very intense and beautiful story of synchronicity, you know, meaningful coincidence. It can actually help us go deeper and expand who we think we are. So yeah. Opening the doors, what's awakening to the dream? We have to be able to go through some portals, or maybe some portals opening. This is the West Kennet Long Barrow, which is definitely a portal. I had an experience in there. It was like, wow. And this came down right next to it, you know, and Silbury Hill just right across the way. And it's a magical, magical landscape. It's unbelievable. So, you know, here, what is this? You know, let's look at it a little closer. Here we go, you know, what's the dream that you dream when you see this? You know, there are a lot of things that are evoked here, you know. There's Egyptian, there's, you know, the pyramid definitely seems to be pointed out here again. There's Alice's Hall, which is definitely dream imagery, you know, and Alice also had to find how to get through the door, but here all the doors are open. If you can see, every single one of these doors is open. You can get through, no problem. You don't have to change shape. You know, you don't have to drink some magical fluid. You can just go through, you know. And maybe even these are holes in the window and the floor, you know, you might be able to get through in any direction, or the back, you know. It's like, it's all open for us. What's the dream that we tell with this? This is one of my favorite crop circles. This was 2006 near Uffington Castle, which is where the Uffington White Horse is in the landscape, the ancient Neolithic one. Okay, so again, you know, this is awakening in the dream. So a lot about awakening in the dream is noticing your projections. You have to see what you're dreaming, and it may be that it's unacknowledged. So to me, this crop circle is about seeing your projections. So let's look at it. This is camera distortion, you know, from the angle of the photographer. It was round. Okay, so this spot is not in the center. The circumpunct has been moved off center, and from this point there are all these radiating lines coming out. Okay, so we see that. And then there's this other point over here, which is reflective of this dot over here, you know. It's an expression of self out there somewhere. And this dot out here is radiating concentric rings. It's like how I see it actually is that this projection goes out and it rings out all these radiative concentric rings, and it's the interaction of the projection and the reflection back that creates this very complex reality that you could easily get lost in. Easily, you know. But if you let yourself just follow a line back to center, you'll drop back down. In fact, there was one point, there's a way to kind of look at it and see this in 3D, is this is kind of like a gravity well, and this is down below the crop circle, and everything is kind of sinking back down into it. That was a nice thought. Another thought realization I had was at these points, you're only looking into one half of the circle, and you're actually in the other half. And so you're limiting your story, even though it looks amazing, you know, you're limiting your story. So notice your projections, notice what you're doing, awaken to your own dream. And if you come back to center, this is the one that was in the field with the one that I showed you earlier that had the horse head in the middle of the circumpunct with the 5 spot around it. This looks like an awakened pineal gland to me, you know. 4 levels of realization, you know, coming out into the grand eye of the cosmos. This was in 2005. And then awakening in the dream. What is possible? How far can we awaken? This can go really, really far. So beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, parable. We are not alone. Gee, you think? Crop circles definitely seem to have that feeling, don't you? It's like, whoa, we are really not alone here. There's so much more going on. And it's not just the humans that are nearby, you know? Maybe they look like this. Maybe the beings that are coming in, this was the year 2012. This was one of the very first crop circles that appeared in the year 2012. Maybe they look like this. You know, what's interesting about this, I'm going to show you a close-up. Yeah, if you were to, this shape here, this kind of, it's the head shape. It's our galactic citizen. This is one of our galactic citizens, and they're coming in 2012. You know, a year of transformation and the beginning of the new era to come and help us. And these fellows, you know, in this shape, this head shape actually got referenced many, many times in many ways in the crop circles. And I've done other presentations where I've shown how they were usually, prior to this date, the head shape had a crescent over the top of the head. And this may have still had rays coming out from above it, but the crescent was over the top of the head. Whereas in these guys, for the first time, you have the crescent inside, and the direction that they're going has the rays coming out. So these guys, it's like they can see, they're awakened. These are awakened little beings, whatever they are, you know. And then there were like 4 or 5 of them, 5 different crop circles that had this reference in them. They were just unbelievably gorgeous. This one was like swimming up a hill. And this one I particularly like. I want you to note this little trope here. He's got like headphones on or something that's helping him hear. That's my interpretation. It's like, and he's got this collar that's helping him navigate. And his tail down here has something that's also helping him navigate through the landscape. And every segment of him has inculcated the diamond, the octahedron, an octahedron in every single one of these. So this guy is really listening. The octahedron is the shape that it's most active. It can unfold and refold, and it's hearing from every direction. And here was another one. This guy, I'm showing it because there's one coming up later that's referencing, in this way. This guy looks like he's folded back in on himself, and maybe he's sleeping or dreaming, could be. And note this little figure here that on his tail, this kind of illumined cross. The Star of Bethlehem or something. It's like some illumined cross going on here. That's going to come up later. And then we had them encircling a globe, encircling, is it our planet? Could be. Is it the sun? Could be. But it looks like they are definitely doing something. And, of course, we need discernment. We need to know, is this respectful? Is it nourishing? Can we take responsibility to make sure that that all of our relationships are respectful and nourishing? Those were my two anchors that I mentioned at the beginning. And in our relationship with these unknown beings, we are not alone. We are definitely not alone. And just showing you, this is actually from inside that crop circle. It was gorgeous. I love looking at the layers. It just really excite me. And then this one was same year, 2012, very mysterious, having a relationship with the unknown. And then someone had put a comment up on Crop Circle Connector that I thought was very interesting about this, where it kind of looked like, two eyes, the nerve dendrites, or the nerve fibers that come from reception and then bring information in. So, from one edge to the outer diamond to the inner diamond. And these look like very organic diamonds. They're not sharp. And this is a very organic looking set of hands or nerves or nerve bundle. We're not alone. We are being held. Discernment and trust. We must have discernment if we are going to be able to trust. So, okay, this one's really interesting. Okay, another sequence. Whenever there's sequence like that, that really is a kind of clue for me. Oh, there's a story going on here. There's a parable. Let's listen up. Okay, so here's that star shape that I was telling you that was at the end of the being that came in 2012. This is also 2012 at Stanton St. Bernard. Okay, so what do we got here? Oh, this was also part of the steeple, because it looks like a church to me. These steeples also were reminiscent of the kind of collar that was on the one that was sleeping or dreaming. Very similar, very, very similar. And then you have these boxes of knowledge, or maybe they're compartments of knowledge. Like we hear about how one of the ways that they control systems is they compartmentalize people into, you only get to have this amount of knowledge. What's with the phrases, right to know, or you don't have, it's like your pay scale or something. You only have a certain amount of knowledge available to you, and that's what your code is. Well, this church perhaps is compartmentalized, and there's something dripping out of it. And in the story, there are any number of ways that you can tell the story. In the story that I'm telling right now, this is blood, sweat, and tears that's in the basement of the church. And this was the year that all of the shenanigans that were going on in the Catholic Church was starting to come out, and a lot of people were getting outed for the abuses that they had done. So this was on June 29th. Well, hello. 2 weeks later, 18 days later, something like that, this got added to it. Isn't this interesting? Here we have a circumpunct with a reference to the four directions. This is natural law. This is cosmic law. being attached to what is the highest intent. You know, this star on the top, on the highest steeple of the church, there was a high intent that was meant here. Well, this cosmic law, this cosmic reality is coming in to attach. And so that was on July 16th. And then on the 20th, 4 days later, it got expanded just a little bit more. You had these lines, the vertical orienting lines on this circle came out, and this extra little organic looking diamond got added below and attached to the deepest part of the blood, sweat, and tears that were coming out of this story, this abusive, I'll call it, story that we have been under. But it's attached to this, but it's not running it. So for me, this is counsel. This is counsel. I understand this as, you know, not to throw away our past, not to just throw away the past and say, oh, I need to just let go of it. No, we need to learn the lesson. We need to know where we've been. We need to know what we've been doing. We need to be able to understand that if we want to go in a new direction, we got to know where we've been. And so we don't let it control us. We don't let it drive the ship. To me, this upper portion is like a ship now that can go through the cosmos. But this story now becomes ballast. It becomes something that helps to anchor and orient us, where we know where we've been, we don't get caught in it again, and now we can go out and travel. So we each have our own little ship, you know, same year. Here we go. Here's our galactic citizen here. And the crescent is now at the bottom. It's included inside. What had been blocking us before is now incorporated internally. And it even, you know, there's a fractal crescent, I think maybe even in the lay here, around the pineal gland in the center of our little galactic citizen. There may have been another crescent, and he's got his headphones on, he's listening, you know, he can hear the signal beep 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 beep, you know, that's coming, and letting him know, you know, navigate around. And he's got lots of ballast here. We have the ballast of our old stories to be able to navigate. Looks like he's in a ship to me. So discernment. Okay, we're getting near the end, and so there's going to be room for questions. This next one, freedom and safety. This feels critical for us right now, because it does seem like our social dilemma seems to be all around either we can be free or we can be safe, but we can't do both, right? It's that seems to be the story that is being foisted on us. And I see the crop circles are pointing to something else. So how is that true? Ha, 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 ha. 3 little birds. So find my notes on this. This is great. So these swallows started to fly out in 2003. And it was wonderful, their timing. It just so happened that they appeared about 4 days after a crop circle conference that was done with, that Karen Alexander probably organized, and the late, great Michael Glickman spoke at, you know, and he ended his talk by doing the song 3 Little Birds by Bob Marley. Do you know this one? You know, don't you worry about a thing, because every little thing is going to be all right, you know. So, and then, you know, 3 days later, 3 little birds fly out. Whoa, 4 days later, I think. Anyway, whoa, amazing. So, you know, one idea, every little thing is going to be all right. That's a nice idea. I like that. But what is it about swallows? You know, swallows are very, they're highly symbolic. You know, when sailors would get swallows to indicate how far they had gone out into the great unknown sea, the great unfathomable, you know. And why swallows? You know, if a swallow flew by while they were out at sea, they would know that land was not far away, safety was not far away, and that, you know, and that swallows are, they return to their own nest and to their own partner. They mate for life. And so they're a symbol of fidelity and safety, and they have an unbelievable capacity to fly. Oh my God, I have swallows that live out on my property, and their flight patterns are just like, whoa, they are just so agile. They're unbelievable. So freedom and safety. You know, when prisoners got released, they would get swallow tattoos. It's like a thing. I've served my time. I am safe enough to now be free, and yeah. So every little thing is going to be around. And there was a whole sequence of these swallow designs that occurred from 2003. This was the first one, to 2009. This was the second one. 3 in threes. You know, go out and explore. Feel free enough to explore out into the cosmos, into the reality. This is 6. You know, you can see the birds here. There, and 3 beings, each with their awakening third eye. You know, going bing. You know, and so this was on July 22nd, and then the next day, July 23rd, it got revisited. So, whoa, I mean, we're talking, yeah, let's go free here. Let's really blast out. And that it does seem like that these swallows came out from the connection between the beings, these extra, if there's community, there's more safety for freedom. There's more freedom and that's safety. And this one, just one very, very large swallow that feels weighted down by some kind of story. It seems like, again, you know, I'm looking at this. This is a 4-act play, and it's connected to our galactic citizen down here. And he's weighing the scales between the right and the left, the feminine and the masculine. And, you know, it's and just some discernment. Maybe, you know, this story is going down and then, you know, taking a little bit of a jag to the left before it gets absorbed by our citizen. You know, we need some discernment with the stories that we tell, and this freedom and safety that we're taking on, that we desire to take on, that we claim. I claim my own freedom and safety, that's for sure. And then there's this one, you know, which is about breaking the chain. You know, something coming in. There were several crop circles in our 2008, around this time, that had this kind of very interesting chaining effect going on in them, and they were often on kind of square designs and sometimes doubled over. And I heard some stories. I think I didn't visit any of them, but I mean, I've only been there. I've only been to England twice. I've visited crop circles out here, but in California, but I wasn't there this year, but I did hear some stories that that people who went into these crop circles that had these kind of square chains, they were very uncomfortable. They were like nauseous making, and they weren't comfortable. You know, they made people feel sick. So, but here we have, we're going to break those chains, baby. Every little thing is going to be all right. West Down gallops. I love that name. Yeah, it's going to gallop out. Okay. Standing in the portal. This is the last one. I do think that we are in the portal, and the only way to stand in it is that we need to hold on to the 2 sides and reference our vertical. For me, the two posts, the ones that the space and time in the portal of this reality, how to make this from going from the static to the ecstatic. These 2 posts for me are respect and nourishment. If I'm relating with the intent of respect, internally, externally, all directions, and that the relationship be nourishing, that it be intended toward health. It doesn't mean I necessarily have to know how to do that, because we don't. We've been heavily programmed and traumatized, and it's been difficult here. But if we intend this, we can stand in the portal, and we can allow the unknown to come, and we can be birthed anew. And be birthed anew in this body, you know, the feminine. This is clearly a very feminine symbol. And it was across from the Cerne Abbas giant, which has this, which is a Neolithic design carved into the hill, you know, that is a big giant with a huge erect penis, you know. So this, across a valley, you know, she's lifted up, she was up on a hill, and the giant is on the hill. So the need for the masculine and the feminine to come into right relationship, which is respect and nourishment. You know, if that is being intended, I think we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And all of us, the body is the feminine aspect for all of us. And the masculine aspect for all of us is our intention internally into it, our attention and our intention. So that's how we stand in the portal. And you have to breathe while you're in there. Again, transformation, 888. This appeared on 888, and it is an 8, and the 8 is the number of transformation. And this element right here in the center, well, right under here is where the breathing in would have stopped, or maybe it's the breathing out. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll go this way. I think this is the out breath coming out to here. Or no, the in-breath coming into here, getting bigger, you expand, and whatever, you can read it in any direction. And then the out-breath going out and resting underneath here again. And that when you get to this shift point, the point of shifting, there is a different relationship. It's like you're going from horizontal to vertical. It's a 90-degree turn, you know. It's there's this idea that the transformation is through a 90-degree turn. Maybe some of you have heard this. I heard this a long time ago, and I remember thinking, 90 degrees, how's that supposed to work? What direction? And then I realized years later, oh, it's 90 degrees to vertical. And all of horizontal is 90 degrees to vertical. And so, and in your vertical alignment, you can be stable, to have freedom and safety, and engage and stand in the portal and go from the static to the ecstatic and breathe. Whew. This is the next one. And then there's this one. This is the last one from this year that Jonathan was using in his presentation, and it was I'm using a little bit of what was presented by Jonathan and by Dan Vidler that was in the conference that was, it was just so mind-blowing. It was like so amazing. And I'm just going to add a little bit to it because I think it's really cool. Okay, so this is not square. I mean, you know, it's rounds, but the 4 points are not square. And I wanted to show you, for instance, I'll show you some proof. This fellow Zeph Damon that I showed you the reconstruction of the one earlier, this is from his reconstruction page of this particular crop circle. And these two circles that are the S that's on top are slightly closer together. You can see the centers they're overlapping just a little bit more. This circle is just a little bit overlapping, whereas in the other two, they're just adjacent to each other. And so in this 90-degree turn that I was just talking about, there's also something that comes more into center. So hold on. So I was gonna put this all up in little pieces. So this is from Dan Vidler's investigation. It's just so mind-blowing. On this crop circle, actually, let's come back to here. Interestingly, and rarely in a crop circle do you find tram lines that aren't parallel. Most fields, all the tram lines are parallel. Well, this one was placed in a field where the tram lines are not parallel. And that one edge, you know, that suddenly the tram lines took a different verge. And he noted that on 3 of these centers, the tram lines were going straight through the center of this one, and this one. And but on this one, it's off. It's off a little bit. And so, he's thinking, well, this all looks terribly intentional. What's the story here? So let's go back to this slide. So he extended lines through the landscape on this crop circle. And these lines were the ones that were going through the center of these two particular lines. And they met not in the field. They met out in space somewhere. They met this third line that's going through the center of the other one that a tram line was going through, but then didn't go through the other one. If you connect a line that goes from the center of this one and then through the actual center, it meets up in this unknown spot, this kind of spot in space. You have to reference the unknown in order to find something. So why was this important? Well, because at the end of this line stretched through space was this crop circle. And I showed you this one at the beginning. This is what was from this year. And it was that shell pattern in 6. And it was at Etchelhampton near Devizes. But this one that's going through the unknown point, right through where these match up, this one met up at this little dot that appeared like just a few days before this one. All 3 of these crop circles were from this year, but this one appeared September 7th, and this was September. The Roundway crop circle was September 13th. And this little dot was exactly, come on, 5.88 miles away. That little dot was in a field 5.88 miles away. And he looked up number 5.88. It turns out that 5.88 miles times 1 trillion is 1 light year. So I put this in standing in the portal because I think we're like being able to advance in a really new way. Like maybe we can go light speed, if we turn 90 degrees, if we reference the center, if we allow ourselves to have a completely new relationship to transformation, if we allow ourselves to breathe, all of this, may we be able to travel light speed, All right. With respect, nourishment, and love, I respectfully, hopefully nourishingly say thank you, and I will stop share. And we can go on to questions. How is everybody doing? If you would like to comment or say anything, just,
Totally beautiful. Totally beautiful. Very good.
Yay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, first question. Terry Williamson in Somerset, England.
Oh, great shirt you got there.
Yeah, UFO Wave, a bunch of UFO enthusiasts in England who are trying to get a game going with packs of cards, obviously based on UFOs. And this is a fundraising effort, and I just gave them a bit of support. And who do you think makes the crop circles? Do you think it's a superior intelligence to ours?
That's always the first question. It's like, oh, who's doing this? Who did it? Okay, I'll give you this is my answer. Is actually, I wrote it in a great email last night to Karen. I think Karen may be here. I'm not sure. We're not separate from the cosmos. We're not separate from the all. And the cosmos it's not just one thing. Nothing is just one thing, but it is all a unified whole. It is a coherent whole. So the way that I approach it is that everything is creating the crop circles, everything. So even with the ones that are supposedly man-made and hoaxed, they are not separate from the whole. You hear dozens of stories of them having gone out into the field and the next day they find out that someone was meditating just on that design that they had or had just had a thought that that field would be perfect for something to appear, or or they get spooked by something and, balls of light show up. It's like, it's the consciousness is a continuum of fractal diversity that is able to express. So, at any one particular moment, like we're looking at them again today, these ones that are from the past, but we're again influencing what they are and how they are being created. So this is how I approach it. So, and yes, I do think that there are other beings, unknown consciousnesses that may have technology that is also creating and doing some amazing geometric analyses and like just absolutely creative beauty that is manifesting, helping to manifest them in the fields. But it's related to the earth, it's related to nature, it's related to the landscape, it's related to time, it's related to every single one of us that has a certain story on it. So we're all creating it. It's all being created through the holographic universe. That's fine.
Marién?
Yeah.
Did you the Arecibo?
Reply.
I'm getting
Message?
an echo here.
Oh.
Did the Arecibo message that was received in a crop circle, did that seem plausible as a reasonable response to the Arecibo message sent, and B, did it seem to you like it came from other than human origin?
No, it seemed perfectly reasonable to me. It's like, apparently it was gorgeous. Is there anyone on this call that actually visited it? Anyone? I don't know. In the same field was the human-looking face that was bitmapped, that was like totally incomprehensible from the ground, but from the air you could see that it looked like a human, and actually looked like the face on Mars. It had the same proportions as the face on Mars, and that came down at the same time. So it definitely is referencing a bigger story, much bigger story. It worked for me. I mean, I can't. I think they're all valid in some way, but the story that they're telling is it may need discernment. And you have to be aware of what you yourself bring to the table.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The Chill Bolton thing was particularly interesting because it had the digital information. It had the ASCII 2 imprinted in it.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty direct.
Oh, I thought of some more for you, Mark, that have actual written code in them, but I'll get back to you with that.
Oh, great! Thank you.
So, anyone else?
I have a question, Marién. This roundabout crop circle from this year, it showed this lead to this one light year situation, yeah?
Yeah.
So I don't know why they showed us, this white one light year situation. I don't know even how to call it, situation or
measure
or direction into something. So we still don't know how to use crop circles really, and who is making crop circles and why. But maybe because I had like strange experiences during meditation with crop circles.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I just wanted to ask you first if you know any groups, because once in 2019 I was in meditation at Karen Alexander's and Steve Alexander's conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had few meditation with crop circles, and I wouldn't go into details, but actually very strange things happened, to me during this meditation. So do you know anybody who is trying or practicing meditation with crop circles in different ways to sort of squeeze out maybe the message better of the crop circles?
Yeah, it's a wonderful experiment to do. I know that it's been done many, many times over the years. I don't know specific groups that's their practice. But you know, obviously would need to be happening during this. Well, actually, maybe it could happen anytime. We did one. We did one a number of years ago, and that was ended up very interesting. There was a crop circle that seemed to somehow be reminiscent, actually, of Elena's in particular. Her drawing. We were doing meditation and drawing whatever designs and you know that we thought might be coming and or to request and. There's a lot that can be done and it's all very worthy. It's a mysterious universe. I think to try to nail it down to it's this, I have the answer, you know, is a mistake. It's an answer. It's valid. It's an answer. But then to allow that there's always going to be something more. And in fact, that seems to be something that the crop circles have done. Like for years, it's like the researchers go, I got the answer. And then the next crop circle, they break that rule, whatever that answer was, you know. So to keep expanding, you know, this is a very big universe. It's a really big universe. It's like our consciousness is so thin, you know, compared to what's possible. And you know, for us to open up it's a big deal. And you know, may it be.
I thought that maybe we can. I wasn't into meditation, and then I wanted to start this year, and I already was gathering some people, but all this lockdown immediately started, like sort of against me, yeah.
Right.
And then because I was thinking there is no solution really, and I thought these meditations, maybe different ones, they might be the method for us to tap into the circuit of the crop circle consciousness.
It seems
or
closer
something
than
like
most.
this. Yeah.
That seems like it would be more effective than, you know, anything else that could possibly be happening. But yeah. Yeah, just like there's mass meditations for peace, you know. Yeah,
I know this Gary Bildcliffe. He wrote a book about dragons and earth energies, and he also, well, I because I'm into dowsing a little bit, and he's big dowser, and I didn't know that they talk about this quantum field, that all is connected through this quantum field. And then I knew that meditation is something great, but I didn't know that this meditation and quantum theory and crop circles, they might be very, very, very much connected, really.
everything is connected.
Yeah,
everything is connected.
But they might be connected for some use, for some useful purpose.
Oh, well,
you mean
that's part of our exploration through the field.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, well, can we find certain patterns that are functional and not get stuck in them, you know, as this is the answer. Rather, this can work now, and can it be improved, or is there another route to take? That would be better. These are all important. Not to get stuck. Going from the stuck to the ecstatic.
Yeah.
Not stuck. Free and safe. Yeah. If you're respectful and nourishing, it's going to be free and safe. Yeah.
Well, when you fly with the speed of 1 light year, you don't know if you will be safe when the crop circle can send you with that speed.
If you got your headphones on and you're listening, you know, maybe.
No, but yogis, they could meditate, and they could. I read somewhere in some Vedic scripture, they could leave the body and travel faster than the light, it is said. So
Consciousness is not limited by light speed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Light speed is only limitation. So maybe crop circle can even show us how to defeat this, the barrier.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows?
All right.
Who knows?
Thank you anyway. I just gone too much little bit. Thank you for
Well,
your
thank you,
organizing the
Thanks.
conference as well.
I'm glad you made the call. It's really great. Anybody else want to comment or have anything to say?
Your
Has there been
last
anything?
your last presentation you did last month, I think it was, really sparked my imagination. It looked like when you were looking at the weave in the crop circles, it really looked like it was a flow, almost flow of water that was creating these shapes. It was almost the only thing it could do, the only thing that could create those kind of shapes. And I was wondering, are there thoughts of what kind of energy that is? Originally, when I started to get interested in the crop circles, I was thinking, because of the expansion of the nodes and all that stuff, it looked like it was probably some electromagnetic field, but I'm not so sure about that. Are there thoughts about what energy, what kind of energy is actually flowing?
Yeah,
to create
well,
these systems?
Levengood, back when he was alive and doing the research, he thought it was a microwave kind of technology that is heating up the waters, and that makes the plants pliable, and thus you get the ability to be bent. But what is it that's actually intending the particular shapes and for the flow? And it's like, wow, it's consciousness, and it could be, I mean, the actual energetic field might be plasma. So, but I don't really understand that stuff. So, but plasma makes sense to me somehow. It's not like I really understand it, but it certainly is intention.
It seems like it has to be some sort of interaction between
It's
the
sensitive.
earth and the plants. There's some, because well, I know things appear in the snow and things like that, but it's an adept with snowshoes or
Oh,
or somebody on the beach with a broom. But this must be some connection between the earth and the plants and the consciousness that's interacting with those. And
some
I would
form
love
of
to know.
energy. Some form of it. I mean, that's it's a kind of telekinesis apparently, so
Hmm,
that could be.
interesting.
Yeah.
Wonderful session. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anybody else? Last call for questions. Anything else?
Hi, Marién.
Yes.
Can I ask you, please, a question? Can you tell us about what are you doing more? Maybe you're doing some research or else, because I'm first time here and I want to know more about your work.
Thank you. Thank you so
and
much.
by the way, thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Oh, it's it's so fun to share these kinds of things. And I do have two YouTube channels. One is Marién Grace, my name, Marién Grace, and the other one is Crop Circle Grace, all one word. And so the Crop Circle channel has more stuff, a lot older, actually, videos. And if you send me your email, actually, I think if you could put your email in the chat, I will add you to the mailing list, and you'll get the announcements for when I put stuff out. So
yeah,
and I'm not abusive with that, and I definitely don't share the list with anybody. So but I've been really working lately with understanding the geometry of consciousness for transformation. Wow, that's interesting. I've never said it quite like that. Yeah, so like for instance, when I talk about these two poles to hold on to. You know, it's a geometry for me. I actually I think and understand through kind of topographical landscape. I understand things geometrically. I understand dynamics of geometry, how 2 is about relationship and 3 is about perspective on relationship, and 4 is about orientation, and 5 is about exploring and fractal, and you know, it's like all of that. So I'm working on some videos, and I had a class I did a number of years ago called Alchemy of the Apocalypse. You know, so that kind of gives you a little flavor. And so on my Marién Grace channel, there's more stuff that's more about the philosophical side of myself. And although all of the crop circle things are they really do go there. I mean, the nuts and bolts part of I know the nuts and bolts part of the crop circle study and research, and I do follow all of that, but I'm really interested in how is this of service? And that's my particular angle. So that's what I do. So I try to share, you know, I run this group, this cute little group that's been small until now. You know, it's like, it's nice to have more people. So.
Thank you.
That's basically what I do. So thank you for coming, Anton. Anyone else? Okay, last one. I am going to ring a bowl because it's always nice to have the resonant quality of the circle. Are always safe. If you know where your center is, that's where safety comes from. That's where your alignment comes from. It's from the center. You are the center of the universe. You literally are the center of the universe. Did you know this? You actually literally are the center of the universe. You know, they when they did the math, you know, they saw the universe was expanding and they thought, oh, where's this expanding from? Let's find out where the center is. And they did the math and like rolled the clock backwards from how everything was expanding. And it all came back to, well, everything was at center. Everything is at center. You're not separate from that. That's another Marianism. You're not separate from that. So, all right. So I will ring the bowl. May we all carry forward into our lives with love and grace, nourishment and respect. May we find ecstatic engagement in relationship, and may we let fall into ballast the old stories that will only serve as information for where we no longer wish to be engaged. And may that not be forgotten. So as we travel into the new reality. Aho.